Pokémon Red and Blue, the games that started all for the Pokémon franchise in the Western world. These games would start a franchise that is still going strong almost 30 years from their release in 1997. There are many things I could talk about regarding these games and the legacy they started, but I wanted to talk about the power of choice. I'm sure games before Red and Blue had some form of customization and choice. Choosing a party member's class, what spells to use, what road to take, but I believe no other game made choice as prominent as Pokemon did when it hit the scene. Today, I'd like to talk about what kind of effect that can have on a gaming experience. But before I begin, if you like this video and content like this, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. Choices begin before you've even played the game. If you're like me, you were a kid when these games came out. Your parent or guardians had no clue what you were trying to say when you said you needed both. You were only going to get one, and that's final. Charizard looks so cool, but look at all the Pokemon you can get in Blue version. If you didn't have friends to trade with, you were stuck with the Pokemon exclusive to your game. Due to a miscommunication between my mom and I as a kid, she got me Blue version when I really wanted Red. I would only secretly long for the Red version because Charizard looked so damn cool on the box art. But I was fortunate enough to have plenty of friends living in my apartment complex during Pokemon's craze in the 1990s. We were trading on our Game Boys and with our trading cards all day long. The freedom to choose the friends that accompany you on your journey is intoxicating. From the very beginning of the game, you're given a choice. Professor Oak offers you one of 3 starting Pokemon: Bulbasaur, Charmander, or Squirtle. You may look at the designs to pick your favorite. Do they look cool? Maybe you want it to look cute. Then there's their typings: grass, fire, or water. Each type has its advantages and disadvantages. Maybe you consider what gym battles are ahead and the type of Pokemon you'll need to face that gym leader. If you choose Bulbasaur, your road will be pretty easy in the beginning of the games. Brock and Misty are the first gym leaders, and they're weak to Bulbasaur's grass-type moves. And even the third gym leader, Lieutenant Surge, has electric-type Pokemon, and grass-type is resistant to those attacks. Choosing Squirtle will give you an advantage against Brock and access to an early water-type. Charmander will have the roughest time against Brock and Misty due to its vulnerability to Misty's water-type Pokemon. But the wait for another fire-type Pokemon is even longer than the wait for a water-type Pokemon. So choosing Charmander will give you access to a very unique typing early game. How will your choice make you feel when they reach their final form? Do you like what they look like? You can choose Charmander and lose your mind as you watch him become something like a dragon. Or how about your adorable turtle, which eventually gets cannons on its back? Maybe it didn't go down the cute road you wanted it to. I personally love Venusaur and how thick he gets. The boils on his skin were always such a cool detail to me. Would any of these choices have disappointed you in the end, or would you have been satisfied? As I've gone from a child to an adult, the reasonings for my choices went from design and cool factor into typing and stat thinking. I sometimes wish I still had my old way of choosing. As you can see, very early on, your actions will have consequences. Your rival will immediately choose the Pokemon that has the best advantage against you. In the very first battle, you may feel like something is unfair, but this design choice only spurs yet even more creativity. Say you choose Charmander, so your rival counters by picking Squirtle. Once you finally begin catching more Pokemon, one of your first thoughts might be, what can I get to counter my rival's Squirtle? So you then look for a Pokemon that has moves that would be good against Squirtle. In Viridian Forest, there's a rare wild Pikachu that could learn Thunder-type moves, or later you can find an Oddish or a Bellsprout. Team composition starts from the first few moments of the game and is ever evolving as the game goes on. You may pick a Pokemon that works great early on, like Butterfree, but as the game goes on, it starts to lag behind. You can just swap it out for something later. Even after you choose your starter, there's a few more instances where you get to choose gift Pokemon, but you only get one or the other. In Saffron City, you find the Fighting Dojo. Defeating the Dojo Master will give you yet another choice, Hitmonlee or Hitmonchan. Both of these fighting type Pokemon look great, but in Pokemon Red and Blue, one is clearly better than the other. If you don't know the answer, I'm not even going to say it. Because what if you choose one for looks and you personally like how it works on your team, only to have someone come up and say how awful it is? Unfortunately, you won't be able to make that decision again until you restart the game. So, ignorance is bliss. In Mount Moon, you can choose between the Helix or the Dome Fossil, which will give you access to Omanyte or Kabuto. You won't be able to actually revive the fossils until late game, but either way, you're only allowed to take one with you. Are you going to wait until late game to add them to your team? Once you finally get them, maybe you're disappointed by their design, stats, or even their low level. And even if you want to use them, is it worth the time it takes to train them up? Oftentimes, the answer for me was no. Having to go and grind experience against wild Pokemon in order to get my new edition's levels up was slightly annoying because by that time I may have used all the trainers in my area for even better XP. This is one factor about Red and Blue and most Pokemon games after it that was more difficult to accept. Sometimes the Pokemon you've really wanted to try are so late in game there isn't much left of the game to enjoy them with. You could wait until the Safari Zone to get a Dratini, but by the time it becomes a Dragonite, you actually may be in the post-game, or the very last few fights of the Elite Four. Either way, you're going to be grinding with it a lot because it takes a lot for it to level up as a Dragon-type Pokemon. You're going to have to make choices on that long wait and if it was worth it. Eevee is the mascot of choice. Jolteon, Flareon, or Vaporeon. You can evolve Eevee into any of the three, but like the other choices, there is no going back. Eevee is located in Celadon City. Celadon is actually a great place to have been given Eevee. By this point in the game, you're likely establishing your final spots of the party. Eevee, being a gift Pokemon and the only one like it in each playthrough, is similar to the scenarios with the fossils in the Fighting Dojo. This situation feels far more important though because the far ends of the spectrum that the outcomes can be. Thunder, Fire, and Water. These are three very different evolutions that could plug any remaining holes you have on your team. Eevee's level is also not far off from what a normal party team's level might be by this point. By the time you beat the game, you've already made so many choices. You're going to look to the beginning of the game and wonder if you could have made a few choices differently here or there. But that's the beauty of these games. The built-in replayability is there. Your next playthrough can be wildly different than your last and make it a completely new experience. Choice has to be my #1 reason for coming back to these games over and over again. I love other games from this era, but I've not played them as much as I have the Pokemon games over the years. Pokemon Red and Blue put choice at the forefront of design and they smashed it out of the park. If you made it to the end, thank you for watching this video. I hope you liked it. I'll see you next time.